afternoon, Miss Mills, 7th period. Thank you for giving us your undivided attention. Please turn off all cellular devices and please do not put your feet on the backs of the seats in front of you. The exits are located to the left of the screen and out the second-story window. We recommend the first option. Please enjoy the following presentation on Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. We will explore a theme that is widely addressed in the book. When making decisions, one must consider both passion and logic, for one is not absolutely more advantageous than the other. Additionally, we will discuss foils and dichotomies that are present in the novel.
The most evident example of passion versus logic emerges when Jane is presented with a moral dilemma. Rochester, her wealthy, powerful, and magnificent one true love, proposes marriage to her. She is elated, but alas.
"Wilt thou have this woman for thy wedded wife?" when a distinct and near voice said,
"The marriage could not go on. I declare the existence of an impediment." Turns out he had a lunatic, ferocious beast woman locked up in the attic that was his wife. Dun, dun, dun!
Consequently, Jane had a decision to make.
Which is better? To have surrendered to temptation, listened to passion, made no painful effort, no struggle, but to have sunken down into that silken snare, fallen asleep on the flowers covering it, wakened, delirious with his love half my time, for he would, oh yes, he would have, loved me for a while. Whether it is better, fevered with delusive bliss one hour, suffocating with the bitterest tears of remorse the next.
Jane debated for less than 10 pages, but then Jane came to the conclusion that
the passions may rage furiously like true heathens, as they are, and the desire may imagine all sorts of vain things, but judgment shall still have the last word in every argument, and the casting vote in every decision. Strong wind, earthquake shock, and the fire may pass by, but I shall follow the guiding that still small voice which interprets and dictates the conscience.
Jane struggles between passion and logic time and time again. Her feelings overcome her logic, almost twisting it. But she sticks with her principles throughout the novel because it is one of her defining features to be morally right. This is shown again in the novel when young Jane's fiery passion towards life is contrasted with Helen Burns' rational approach towards living.
Helen is exceptionally cool-headed and mature for her age. Spiritually secure, she can handle situations with a grace that Jane just does not understand at the time. When Helen is forced to wear a demeaning sash for being messy, their reactions highlight their differences.
I can so clearly distinguish between the criminal and his crime. I can so sincerely forgive the first while I abhor the last. With this creed, revenge never worries my heart.
When we are struck out without reason, we should strike back again very hard. I am sure we should, so hard as to teach the person who struck us to never do it again.
Their differences are also underlined when Helen is on her deathbed. Jane is adamant that she must go see Helen, even though she is forbidden from doing so. Perhaps Jane thinks that this will be the last time she'll ever get to see Helen, and her passion drives her to break the rules.
I must see Helen. I must embrace her before she dies. I must give her one last kiss, exchange with her one last word.
She was just in time. Open quote. It was 9 o'clock and Miss Miller was calling the pupils to go to bed. End quote. When Jane arrives, she finds Helen in a far less distressed state.
How sad to be lying on a sick bed and to be in danger of dying. This world is pleasant. It would be dreary to be called from it, and to have to go who knows where.
By dying young, I shall escape great sufferings. I believe, I have faith. I am going to God.
Bronte includes Helen in the novel as a pure example of calm Christian logic. Helen teaches Jane how to pick her battles, recognize dangerous situations, and live in a non-secular way.
Speaking of contrasting characters, let's explore some foils. Miss Reed and Miss Temple acted as contrasting maternal figures for Jane. Miss Reed, who raised her for the first 10 years of her life, was a wretched, cruel woman. Seriously, she might as well have worn a Dalmatian coat and big red heels. Miss Reed bordered on abusing Jane, allowing her children to beat Jane and locking Jane in the red room when she fought back against her cousin John's abuse. Jane absolutely hated Miss Reed, making this especially evident when she was leaving to go to school.
I'm glad you're no relation of mine. I will never call you Anne again as long as I live. I will never come to see you when I'm grown up, and if anyone asks me how I liked you and how you treated me, I will say The very thought of you makes me sick, and you treated me with miserable cruelty.
On the other hand, she had a much more positive experience with Miss Temple.
To her instruction, I owed the best part of my acquirements. Her friendship and society had been my continual solace. She had stood me in the stead of mother, governess, and latterly companion.
By abstaining from showing Jane love, Miss Reed had a negative influence on Jane. On the other hand, Jane got her first taste of warmth and kindness from Miss Temple, who had no obligation to do so. These women showed Jane that both neglect and love look like. Miss Temple unveiled to Jane how teachers should teach their students, with compassion and patience. This later influences how Jane treats Adele and her students in the village school.
The next foils we will be discussing are the Reed sisters versus the River sisters.
Of course not. Georgiana and I have nothing in common. They never had. She would not be burdened with her society for any consideration. Georgiana should take her own course, and she, Eliza, would take hers.
Everybody knows you are the most selfish, heartless creature in existence, and I know your spiteful hatred towards me.
The Reed sisters were quarrelsome, and would not see past their differences to accept me and enjoy me as a companion. Additionally, the River sisters never got along, or the Reed sisters never really got along. You see, on matters of me, I'd say that the young ladies have a remarkable way of letting you know that they think you are a quiz without actually saying the words. A certain supercilious of look, coolness of manner, nonchalance of tone, express fully their sentiments on the point, without committing them by any positive rudeness in word or deed. The River sisters, contrastingly, were much more amicable. Because there was no obstacle between the sisters, they could easily make space for me and their family. Open quote. They were so agreeable with each other, never fell out or trepid. End quote. Immediately, they welcomed Jane into their family with open arms, and I learned immense amounts of information from the River sisters. I devoured the books they lent me. Then it was full satisfaction to discuss with them in the evening when I had pursued during the day. Thought fitted thought, opinion met opinion. We were coincided, in short, perfectly.
Bronte contrasted these two pairs of sisters to emphasize the importance of balance in relationships. In order to have tranquil exchanges with others, Jane realizes that she must use the same tolerance and acceptance that the River sisters showed her. The Reed sisters were passion-driven, acting on emotion and never considering the feelings of others. The River sisters, though, had a balance of logic and passion, which allowed them to be congenial.
The last and most powerful foils that we shall address are St. John and Rochester. Rochester embodies passion in the novel, frequently being compared to fire. Bertha tries to set him on fire twice, actually. She succeeds once, but it kind of ends up biting her in the butt because she is forced to jump off the roof because of said fire.
Somebody call 911. Thornfield fire burning on the dance floor.
Don't jump! I'm so happy she jumped.
He is also related to Fire when he dresses up as a gypsy woman and interrogates Jane by the fireplace to try and unveil her feelings for him.
I was talking of ladies smiling in the eyes of gentlemen, and of late so many smiles have been shed into Mr. Rochester's eyes that they overflow like 2 cups filled above the brim. Have you never remarked that?
Mr. Rochester has the right to enjoy the society of his guest.
St. John, however, is as cold as ice. He is painted as the ultimate manifestation of logic and reason. Dedicated unwaveringly to his faith, he can think of nothing else. He regards all passion and emotion in favor of reason. He forgets piteously the feelings and claims of little people in pursuing his own large views. The differences between St. John and Rochester are manifested when both of them propose marriage to Jane. Rochester is purely driven by passion. Even though he has a wife, he requests to marry Jane because he feels like he is so in love with her. He thinks this is somehow okay. On the contrary, it is still quite normal or immoral. But Jane, ignorant of the moral obstacle, leapt into his arms.
And if I had loved him less, I should have thought his accent and look of exaltation savage. But sitting by him, roused from the nightmare of parting, called to the paradise of union, I thought only of bliss given to drink in so abundant a flow. Again and again he said, "Are you happy, Jane?" And again I answered yes.
Rochester cares deeply about Jane. He loves her intensely, and he is concerned for her well-being. The idea is reinforced when he asks Jane if she is happy. St. John does not regard Jane's feelings. Jane recognized that she, an emotionally intelligent, passionate human being, would suffer as St. John's wife. So when he proposes marriage, it is only appropriate that she answers,
"Formerly, because you did not love me. Now," I replied, "because you almost hate me. If I were to marry you, you would kill me. You are killing me now."
Jane cannot stay with Rochester while he is still married to Bertha because she would be acting purely on passion. This would be exceptionally immoral, and Jane would have been miserable. However, Jane cannot go with St. John because he is not fit for love. He is only fit for reason. It is only when Rochester is mellowed, Bertha is dead, and Jane is independent that she can return to and marry Rochester. The final situation has a respectable balance of reason and passion, because the situation is moral and Jane can be with her one true love. Bronte continually contrasts passion with logic with the characters that she creates to comment on the balance between the two required for a successful and peaceful life. Using foils, dichotomies, and ultimately Jane's tale of woes, she effectively communicates this truth about human nature and experience.